How's it, everyone? We are the Joy Schtick Show. Your three favorite friends from Hawaii are back to talk story about what brings us joy in comics, video games, and pop culture. We'll share our shtick with you, so stick around. If you fancy what you hear, please like and subscribe on the platform you frequent. Your support is greatly appreciated. If this is your first time, mahalo for spending it with us. I'm your co-host Drake. That's Thomas.
What up, what up? Phase 5 is here.
Heyo! And that's Scott.
How's it?
And we are, like we talked about earlier on when I introduced it, the Joy Schtick Show. And today we're going to get deep into the quantum realm. Deep into the quantum realm. Because Quantumania just came out this past weekend, and we're going to talk about that. And then we're probably going to talk about some other stuff, most likely The Last of Us, just because that came out yesterday. So let's just get into it. What did we think about Quantumanias?
Scott, you want to go first?
Yes, he does.
We just want to okay, so quick response. I liked the movie. It wasn't a perfect movie. A lot of plot holes, but a lot of cool stuff. That's all I'll say for now. We'll get into it.
I second that, Drake. Yeah. I've said this on a different podcast as well, but I really enjoyed it. I did not think this was top tier Marvel, but it's upper mid tier Marvel for me. It's not the worst thing I've seen in the last year and a half. I think it was definitely better than a lot of things in Phase 4. And King's a badass, and Paul Rudd got to be very Paul Rudd in it, and Michelle Pfeiffer crushed it. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, she was definitely fluffing my Pfeiffer.
Wow. Yeah. She still got it though. She still got it.
Yeah,
sure.
she definitely got it. She looked real good. Anyways, I agree with everything that everybody has said so far. I would say for me, and we'll get into it, Jonathan Majors was probably the highlight for me in terms of just the acting chops, and his intensity and what he brought to the story. But I don't, like you both said, I don't think this is like top shelf situation, but I do think this is one of the better Marvel movies that built out a world. They spent a lot of time building out the quantum verse or quantum realm, and I was there. I was present. But why not? Let's just get into the nitty gritty. What would you like to start with, Tom Bob?
Well, let's start with the opening monologue, because it's been a while since we've seen Scott. I think the last time we saw him was in Endgame, right? I'm trying to think of what other show he was in where we had seen him. We had gotten nods to him, right? We had seen in Miss Marvel, he was doing a podcast. We seen, I guess, a nod to him in Wakanda Forever. Somewhere there was like a little Easter egg there. So it's been a while since we actually have seen what Scott has been up to. And now he's kind of, at least... I mean, he is a celebrity, but in his mind, he's an even bigger celebrity. Yeah. And I like how it just set the tone of, he's been such a not important character in some ways in the MCU, or he's been looked down upon, I should say. And in this one, he's finally kind of getting the credit he deserves, even though, the coffee guy still doesn't know which character he is.
Yeah,
the Bug Man.
Spider-Man.
Yeah. Spider-Man. Yeah.
Bug guy.
That guy was too funny. I love that guy.
That guy was great.
Yeah. And, just doing this, what we do, I would be lying if I said I don't listen back to some episodes that we do. But so just having, when Cassie gets thrown into jail and he has to pick her up and they jump in the car and his audiobook is playing, I was like, I was cracking up to myself. I was like, I would be that guy who's playing the audiobook to himself in the car. So
that's true. I guess, you want to make sure it sounds good too, right? I mean, a book's a pretty big deal, and it seems like it's his first book. It is funny though, and he plays into it well, and he turns it up. Like, he plays into that joke.
Yeah.
So I thought that whole interaction was hilarious.
Yeah, like, Dad, turn it off. You what? Turn it up?
Turn it up? Okay. Like,
yeah.
I especially like seeing like the Baskin Robbins guy too. Like, that guy that guy's so funny. Like, just his intense glare, like, or his like stare at him, like, we're friends. Like, I found myself laughing at a bunch of the small like meetings with people from the past movies. People I did miss though. I missed his friends, his buddies.
Yeah.
that was probably like the one group of people I kind of like really wish were in this movie. But other than that, all the small
100%.
things like the coffee shop guy and the Baskin Robbins dude, all the way up to the end too. He's like, "Yeah, it's been a while since I made one of these," and he's like, "Yeah, well, you
Yeah.
did it, huh?" And he's like, "Yep, just for you. Came out of retirement." Like, this fucking guy.
Right. And like the frosting was all over the place. Like it was, it looked like somebody put their fingers in it and was like tasting the icing. Yeah, it was so bad. But yeah, I mean, I think right off the bat, I was waiting to see at least a nod to the heist crew, to see Louise, to see Kirk, to see T.I. I mean, I guess T.I. is in hot water in real life, and so it kind of makes sense why he's not in it. But Louise was like a huge miss.
At least
I feel
Louise. Yeah.
Right. Like, because one of the best jokes in both of the movies, in Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp, was Louise's like retelling of everything that happens.
Exactly.
He's like, and then I told this guy to tell this guy until that. Like, I missed that joke, and it wasn't in this one. So yeah, I noticed it for sure.
I enjoyed watching a lot of like that nostalgia. I think it almost felt it was a nice thing because, I mean, if you haven't watched the Ant-Mans recently, it was a nice recap of all the things that kind of taken place. Him and Randall Park kind of getting to know each other, getting a little bit better, right? He's like pulling out the credit card.
It's funny they actually went for lunch, right? Because at the end of the second one, he's like, "Oh, I thought you're gonna ask me to go to lunch." Oh, what? No.
He's like, "I'll be seeing you again."
Yeah.
He's like, "Wait, are you asking me to lunch?" He's like, I mean, do you want to go to lunch?
No, I don't. Like, oh.
No.
And then they do go to lunch.
Yeah.
Like, it's so great.
Yeah.
man.
And then he pulls out the same card trick, but this time with the credit card. It's like,
all these callbacks.
There was like such good callbacks, I think, even in the beginning to the previous Ant-Man episodes that I was like, all right, you know, they did their homework. I mean, but that's what you get when you have the same director, I feel like, and writer for the first, you know, through all the movies. And all that was great. How did you guys feel about meeting the new Cassie?
I mean, to be honest, I don't like remember the first Cassie. So, I you know what I mean? Like
that's a little blast for the past.
I just accepted it. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Sure, why not?
Oh my god!
Is that the same for you?
We're gonna have to fill you guys in offline. We're probably just gonna have to edit this out. I'm gonna lie.
But you know, like, yeah. I mean, it's obviously because I just watched the second movie before going in and watched the third one, so I could tell it was a different actress. But you know, there's a time skip. She wasn't my favorite, to be honest.
Catherine Newton,
like, huh?
Catherine Newton, the girl that plays Cassie in this movie, was not your favorite.
Yeah, she just wasn't my favorite.
In terms of,
she just wasn't. I don't know. I think I was like talking with some people afterwards, and it's like, after watching weeks of The Last of Us and seeing like a really good child actor and then seeing like a Disney version, I was like, you know what I mean? I just like, and it could just be the writing, like nothing on the actress herself or whatever. Like that could be exactly what the director wanted. And that's what we were getting. But I just like wanted more from every character, you know, like, or at least the same amount of, you know, whatever, drive or something. I don't know. It's, to me personally, it wasn't my favorite. Every response, everything just seemed like she was tired all the time. I got here. Like that was just the acting choice. Like, okay.
She did have this tired out way of delivering lines on everything. I do agree with you there. I think that's completely fair. You know, like I felt bad for the girl that wasn't picked in Endgame. I feel like. So I kind of like was like, man. And I had already decided in my mind that was Cassie. So it was a little jarring seeing this Cassie at first. But as the show went on, I started to see why they picked her because she did a really good job of kind of like impersonating Paul Rudd for me. She had like these really good like Paul Rudd mannerisms. Like the way she delivered, even when she was like learning how to punch, and like, you know, when she's like, "Oh, you're so cool," to the lady in the quantum realm who was kind of like Tarzan. I don't remember what her name was.
Michelle Rodriguez, but not Michelle.
Yes,
Michelle
exactly. Yeah, that one.
Abs.
I thought she was like, "Oh, you're so cool." I was like, "That's so Paul Rudd." So I guess I understood why they picked her in that moment. Yeah, what were you thinking, Drake?
I think. On Scott's note, like the delivery of the lines, and just like the lines in general, it didn't feel, for lack of a better term, like important. It felt very supporty, which is awesome because I think that's what was meant in that situation. But in terms of in terms of all the characters, for me, again, Jonathan Majors stood out. But I also think that every character was very even, which is, I think, a positive, right? There was no one character that stood out more than another in my mind, aside from Kang, in my opinion. So the fact that everybody kind of played their role and added just like a little bit to make it kind of very even keel. I mean, obviously, would I like the lines to be a little bit more quippy or things of the such? Like, that's just nitpicky. But to Thomas's point, like, for sure, her Ruddisms, right, were very on point. It
That's the
seemed
word I was
like
looking for. Ruddisms.
his daughter.
Thank you.
Ruddisms, yeah.
Yeah.
So it seemed like his daughter. So yeah.
Yeah, so on that side, I was like, oh, okay, I see what they're going for. Whether you like her as Cassie or not, I don't know. But, I mean, they had to go, I guess they had to go with a bigger name since we see all these Young Avengers popping up everywhere. And as a founding member of the Young Avengers, like, it makes sense, like, you'd have Cassie be, you know, a more well-known actor. So that makes a ton of sense to me. But let's get into the whole part of the quantum realm, because it seems very quick from, okay, boom, she's out of jail. Boom, she's working with Hank and Hope behind the scenes. And now I've been doing all this testing of the quantum realm. Boom, they get sucked in.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you guys feel about that start? And then maybe just a little bit of like what you thought about just when we were introduced to the quantum realm.
Oh, I thought the quantum realm was really cool. The I guess the big plot hole thing for me, and we don't need to get stuck on it, but is I don't know why what's her name, the mom,
Janet or
Janet. Yeah, Janet.
Janet Van Dyne.
I don't know why Janet didn't say anything about the quantum realm or how dangerous it was until someone was like, "Oh, I sent the message." What? Like,
yeah,
like that whole part, like, just because in another movie, like, they talk about going to quantum realm and like it's like all of a sudden now it was a big thing about not
now
going
that
to
she
quantum
didn't
realm.
want to.
It was kind of a plot hole. Maybe they didn't know how they're gonna, it's probably what it was. They're like, oh, we're gonna make the big thing in the quantum realm, so now it makes sense. So whatever. But
yeah,
other than that, the quantum realm was really cool. Like the way they did everything, the way it looked, and it really, they did a good job of like making it feel like there was whole nother universe and stuff. I guess the other thing too, I had a question about, like, just with like how the quantum world works. I guess in this they end up in the same spot because MODOK brings him to that location, right? Because otherwise, like, if you enter the quantum realm, say like where you're at, Tom, and I enter the quantum realm where I'm at, what are the chances we're gonna run into each other? Like, I was wondering about like that. Like, is entering the quantum realm just like pulling you into like another universe, or like how
is
big
it
is
on opposite ends of a planet? To some degree, right? Like, would you end up in Los Angeles and I end up in China or something?
Or am I gonna end up on another planet in the quantumverse or something? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know that, and that's where the question came up too. Like, where Kang crashed into the quantum realm, and then, like, just so happened to be that was a really perchance thing, like next to Janet. Whereas like he probably wasn't around Earth and then got banished to the quantum realm. Like, I'm assuming he was somewhere else. So like there's just a lot of things I'm like, how does it work? But I just don't know. But otherwise it looked beautiful. Like it looked really cool.
I think I have an answer though for your first point. Cool, yeah. Which your first point, and this is what people have said online, and I don't know if this is true, this is just speculation, but people were saying at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, when they send Scott back into the quantum realm and Janet doesn't say anything, it's because they're not that deep into the quantum realm. So he's on the periphery of it, just gaining the energy, and then boom, Hank, Janet, Hope gets dusted. But I guess the deeper you go, the closer you are to Kang's capital. And then if that's the case, that's where that signal was going. So that could alert him. I guess he was on the periphery enough. It still doesn't really explain it because she probably should have said something, and it was kind of irritating the first time I watched it. Sure. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I can accept that answer that someone gave, because they do mention, hey, don't go this place, don't go here, don't go too far in, otherwise you could be lost forever again, yada yada. So there is a little bit of an answer there, I guess, from somebody online. Who knows how much that counts? Yeah, sorry, Drake, what were you gonna say?
No, that's interesting. Well, first question would be: Is there a quantum realm for every different multiverse then?
No, so the big theory online is that the quantum realm is a place outside of time and space. So just like we have a nexus being like the Scarlet Witch, like there's, well, it's just weird because in Multiverse of Madness there was a bunch of Scarlet Witches, so I'm not sure. I don't know if our Scarlet Witch is like
your
the
thing
one.
Is
Twitching the video.
He's glitching a little bit.
Damn, I don't know what happened. It seems like we just had some technical difficulties, which happen sometimes, but we were talking about the quantum realm, I believe, and where and how you get there. I mean, it was a weird situation, and it seemed like depending on which character had to interact with the quantum realm, it did things differently for each one. Right. I mean, Janet aged 30 years somehow. Ants had time pass through them 1,000 years in one day. But then for everybody else, it went just like a normal day. It seemed like
regular. Yeah.
Yeah. So that stuff was kind of interesting. I know we were kind of chatting more about it offline. What were some other weird things that you guys noticed from the quantum realm?
The general idea was like, so there's multiple different universes in the timeline so that they all can get to the quantum realm. When you go deep into the quantum realm from a different timeline or a different multiverse, do you enter from a different place then?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know, because it seemed like it was just one realm in a sense. Like, is it a planet? It didn't seem like a planet,
it was just like a place.
Did it?
Yeah, it was like
no. I don't think it did.
Yeah, I don't know.
It just seemed like a place. Yeah.
What I was saying with Drake was like maybe it's like a giant rooms of requirement, and it's just like that way, like everyone can access it, and it's the same room, but it's like a, I don't know, universe or
right,
because maybe even smaller than that.
Yeah, they said it's a place outside of space and time. So maybe space is irrelevant. Maybe time is irrelevant. Like the way we think about it, where okay, we're in Colorado or we're in Hawaii. It's like maybe you're just wherever you go, you can make it be whatever you need it to be. And definitely the writers, that's what they did for the story.
Yeah,
they're
like there's not enough science on this, so we can kind of make it up.
So, I mean,
it's true. I mean, I don't know. So.
What I was gonna say,
it still was cool.
Janet not communicating. Obviously, that's a really grind my gears moment for me with communications, but it did kind of help build anticipation throughout the scenes moving forward. You're like, bro, are you just gonna tell her, Janet, Michelle Pfeiffer's? Let's go, original Catwoman. Just tell the people what we already kind of know. But then you're like, oh, well, in this situation, nobody knows about this. Is this going to come up here? In this situation, is it going to come up here? So it did give a little bit of anticipation and mystery, even though you kind of knew. So that was a positive over non-communication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But also there was a lot of stuff
good of you, man.
There's a lot of stuff they didn't show us where I'm sure there was plenty of time where they were walking that she could have told them.
Maybe walking's different,
and she did it then.
Space,
so I don't know.
Yeah.
She's like, I can't walk here and think, so just walk. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Janet.
Well, but that was the thing. I mean, even in Endgame, Scott says, it's been 5 years, but he's like, for me, it felt like 5 hours. So I think the concept of time too, it feels weird. Like it's hard to tell, especially there's a lot of what we deem as time or the way time works is like our sleep schedules and the sun, and there was no sun down there. So it's kind of like that probably would mess you up a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I think it really did irritate me that she wasn't saying anything the first time I watched it, but it was less irritating after because, I kind of chalked it up to, it was probably one of the scariest, hardest things in her life. And she really thought that she was going to be stuck down there forever with him and still found a way kind of out and wanted to keep her family, I guess, away from it, which, I guess you could explain was her reasoning. But yeah, it was just one of those movie things where you're like, why are you just not saying anything for me?
Outside of time and space.
Yeah, I don't.
Seemed like she got down with Bill Murray.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. She didn't get down with King, but we
Krylar.
know she got down with Krylar.
Yeah.
And Krylar, and that was
he did a great job.
And he was awesome. Yeah, seeing Bill Murray back as Krylar and just being such a Bill Murray character, like pompous character, was so damn good in the middle of this movie. So I really liked that. What did you guys think about the cameo?
Kang's henchman came through and he's like, "Stop!" And they just stopped. It's like, "Let me talk first." I was just like, it's such a ridiculous scene, but I love it though. Yeah.
And it felt like such a Bill Murray, like, I don't know, it was just so awkwardly, like, he's like, "Oh, they listen to you?" Oh, okay. He was great in that. He's such like he does it so well, right? That carefree but like super confident, like, and even though you know he's a bad guy and he's like saying things where you're like, "Oh, I shouldn't like this guy," like, he's still so charming. You're like, "Fucking Bill Murray,"
right?
Like, you still kind of like him, but I do like how his little thing that you see kind of wraps up tightly, where, you know, the creature he's eating ends up eating him in the end. So that was nice. That little you get the justice for like that guy being a dick. You're like, good, and then it wraps a little bow on it, and you can forget about him.
Yeah,
so that was great.
It was a reverse boy situation. Where, you know, instead of it was just the deep eating the octopus, like the octopus got to eat the
Bill
deep
Murray
in the situation, and
shadow.
that was great.
Yeah, and that was
he did.
I thought that was strange too, the way he did it, because first he said, "What do you call yourself?" "Oh, human. That's what you call yourselves." And then later when he mentions Moda, he goes, "He's not man and he's not machine." And I'm like, "But you said man, so you know what man is." Were you fucking with them earlier?
Yeah, I think he was. Human? I mean, he did a lot of things that was fucking with them. When he was like, "Oh, you're Hank. I heard a lot about you and your ants." You know, like,
like what a dick.
Yeah,
like, what are ants?
Yeah, what are ants? Yeah, I mean, he was doing a lot of things. So, I mean, just the fact that Bill Murray said MODOK and then said the acronym out loud in a movie, I was like, what world do we live in? That's amazing. Like, oh man, mechanical organism designed only for kids. And then they kind of teased the acronym at some point in the movie too. Wouldn't that be MOFDOC? That's later on, but you know,
when he cuts him off, he's like, "I'm a murderer," and he's like, "Oh, it's an acronym."
Yeah.
I like that.
That was great.
I mean, I don't want to jump ahead, but that whole MODOK thing. So going into this movie, right? I'm like, cool, MODOK's in it.
Mm-hmm.
We got MODOK in the Avengers game, and they did like a really cool job with MODOK. And you're like, wow, he's menacing. This is awesome.
Well, it was the George Tarleton MODOK too, so it's like the original AIM, you know, the one from the comic. Right.
So like that's like, you know, you get a serious take, and then of course they did the Patton Oswalt one. It was like a jokey one, right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't know what to really expect when I got this version of the movie, and then as soon as like
big head, little body,
of course visually it's hilarious because it's like his face, and it's like Darren, and like, yep, it's me, like a MODOK now, and then like it at first I'm like it seems like it's not trying to be funny, but then as the movie goes on, you're like, oh, it's playing into the joke, like it got like really funny,
right?
Like, I really liked the MODOK situation and Darren, and like. Yeah, it was freaking great.
See, it was funny for me is I almost feel the opposite. Like I liked when they played into MODOK is scary and MODOK is dangerous. And then every time the mask came off and it was just Darren, I was like, this is so bad. Like he just looked it looked like just a screen that they just wrapped around some pole or whatever, you know? And I hated that. But I also like, Darren had some moments that were great.
Dude, he was so funny.
Yeah.
Like I liked him. I liked him as MODOK more than in the first movie. No, I liked him I really did like him in the first movie is really good.
Yeah.
But his character in this movie is just like, even the whole, like, he's like, he found me and then he put me in this suit, and they show him his little baby butt. Like all these things they choose to show you. I'm like, this is so comedic.
Yeah.
They put him in the chair and he's like, your baby. I don't have baby. I'm like, I don't have baby legs. Like it's just, oh fuck. It was so funny. Like, it was so funny. And first I was like, I thought it was gonna be lame, but I was like, you know what? I fucking like Darren.
Yeah.
Like, it was a nice comedic element.
Yeah.
To me, a lot of the comedy in this movie worked for me. Like, Paul Rudd's always great, and then all the other comedy, like especially with Darren and everything. Like this is the one movie I felt like in the fourth phase where like, you know, like we all see Marvel movies and we can feel some of the forced comedy in certain situations. Like there's got to be a joke here, and like not everyone lands it the way. Like, but this one, everyone like this worked the most for me. Like this felt like a comedy, action movie.
Yeah. Like I agree. I feel like they really sold the joke rather than trying to force it or being so over the top you have to laugh. So like it kept, for me, I guess, to some degree, the realism of the world while still having the jokes in there. And yeah, I agree with you. It worked a lot for me as well.
Serious Modoc, Darren. Serious Modoc, Darren.
Yeah, exactly. It was a perfect visual of that. Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, oh, sorry. Go for it.
No, I was gonna say like he like realistically, like you shouldn't have to pull your mask up, like because you're like super like vulnerable when you pull your mask up. So he kept doing that, and I love how everyone cut him off as soon as he'd do it.
Yeah,
like when he's like, "Oh, my own mentor." And he's like, "What?" And he's like, "Shh." And he's like, "Yeah, but you know, Darren." Like, he just like, cuts him off. It's fucking great.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to.
No, that's great. One of the other things I thought that really worked as far as the comedy was the Raiders and having, you know, the people who were displaced by King. There was the Veb, who everybody was like, "Drink my juice" or whatever he said, and. Yeah, and he was like, "I have holes," and I loved Dave Dastmalchian in it. I love that he was back. I would have liked him as you know, the heist character as well as the Russian heist guy who had the really bad accent in the first two movies. But I liked him as this character because I thought he had some of the best lines too. He's like, "Oh, you know, you have holes." Like, oh man, I wonder what it'd be like to have holes. All that stuff really worked for me.
It's just like awkward comedy.
Yeah, ooze. That's what. Drink my.
Here, drink some of my hand.
Yeah,
Quaz.
That was great. Like that really worked for me too. And other than that, I mean, I thought all that was good. I thought those people were cool, but I think throughout the movie, that team, or you know, again, those displaced people by King, I didn't really know how I was supposed to feel about them. Like, am I really supposed to care? And I kind of didn't. Like, I felt bad for the cylinder guy when his head got exploded by King later on. But I mean, he was so cool. Like, I thought that guy was cool. I wanted to know more about him specifically. Yeah. And then
also was based on what I said earlier, I couldn't have been the only one who thought this. Like, when you were introduced to that one leader lady down there, did you also think, like, I feel like Michelle Rodriguez was supposed to be this part? Or something. The lady they picked, and she's great. Nothing against this actress, but I was just like, I just kept seeing her on screen, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's not Michelle Rodriguez. Like, even though, like, I don't think Michelle Rodriguez would have done a better job. Like, she's, you know, or whatever, what have you, about that. But I just like, it just felt like a very her character.
Yeah, totally. It was just like Michelle Rodriguez stunt double that like Michelle couldn't show up. She's like, "Can your stunt double do it?" They're like, "Yeah, she could do it," and then she got the movie. But yeah, I mean, how important is she gonna be in the future? Are we all supposed to know this character? Like, I didn't know who she was, and I didn't really know. Like, I felt like that was a missed opportunity, maybe throwing a character that more people know of.
And I feel like that would have been a great opportunity to like kind of visually show at least one scenario, like, this is what Kang does. Show Kang fucking demolish or not like just that little flashback. Like, really like do it, and then like whoever's left over gets sucked into this quantumverse or whatever the fuck or whatever have you, you know?
Right.
Like, I don't know. Like it should have been. They should have dove into that. That was a good opportunity to actually show, like, and make us fear Kang more. Like, I mean, Jonathan Majors with what little like they gave him. Like, dude, he's fucking awesome. Like, in the scenes with him and Janet, he's amazing. And then even in the flashback, and then the way he responds to like Janet responding to that, like, because he's not sure what she saw, but he's kind of got an idea of, like, because her whole like physical everything like changed, and he's like, you know, like, let's I'm still gonna keep my promise, but like just that whole thing, like, he was great, and like he was menacing when he started doing his powers and everything, and I wish they did more, kind of like what they did with like Gore the God Butcher and like Thor. Like, I wish they like made us fear them more.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You were saying something, Drake? I think you were saying something with Cassie, but I didn't quite catch it.
I feel like they definitely didn't do a good job at making us fear him, but they definitely did a good job at like giving us like the foreshadowing potential of what he's capable of, like mentally, emotionally, especially when he was talking to Scott and Cassie in the prison room, where he's just like, I don't know, he's telekinetic now. I didn't know that. Where he's just like making him move and stuff inside of the things. Yeah, he's like, bing.
Yeah.
He even moves MODOK right against the wall. That
right.
was cool.
Which was something I was questioning too, because it's like he can do it early on and then he doesn't do it later. He just does the blast. But I mean, Kang has an unlimited amount of things he can do with his technology. So that wasn't out of the question. That didn't take me out of the belief. I thought they did a good job of showing how menacing he was. And with I think more what you're saying, Scott, with very little, like we didn't get to see him actually demolishing all these worlds. We kind of get a little taste of it through Janet's, premonition that she gets from touching his chair. And that's kind of it. But the depth of his acting and just how unimpressed he is with Scott shows how menacing he is. And I thought, I don't know, it makes me more excited. The only part where I feel a little frustrated with Kang is at the end, where all of a sudden in the final battle, it seemed like he got super nerfed.
Does he like immediately too? Because I'm like, it's like the last 20 minutes of the movie where he's like, I'm gonna go down basically and start doing shit myself, and then he starts blasting people into like nothing, like dusting them, like Thanos style, boom, boom, boom. They're all just disappearing. But like some people, he didn't like, and like even before he meets the Ant family and doesn't do that to them. There's that part where he runs into like Michelle Rodriguez and Bazooka Head, and like he like Bazooka guy shoots his blast at him, and he's like, he does that really cool like, I'm gonna spin it back at you,
right,
and they
like
were like 20
it.
feet from him,
right?
Yeah, they were like 20 feet from him, right? That guy's head blows up, and you're like, oh fuck, that was a good way of showing like he kills, but it's not it's not like a human like person, so it's like less, it's better for the kids to see, but instantly the mind reading guy and stuff just start pulling her away, like, we gotta get out of here. And I'm like, why is he letting you get out of there? Like, you're 20 feet away from him. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, they're not 20 feet away from him. And I'm like, the spacing and stuff, like, didn't make sense. But especially that, I'm like, why just kill everyone? And then when the two leader dudes come, you just kill one and you, like, let her go. Like, obviously, like, she tried to throw a spear at you. I thought he was going to throw it back at her. But he decided to just let it fall. And then, and then the Ant family comes, and then he decides not to just, blast them.
I mean, he does try. He does try to blast them, and I like that part because we get to see everybody's kind of utilizing their talents. Like Cassie is kind of a one-trick pony because she just learned it. She grows. Hope is firing the stinger blast at him, which I thought that was cool. And then Scott does something pretty unique in this moment where he goes really small to super large in a matter of like a split second. And that was like, cool. I was like, damn, that's pretty badass. So I think he does try, but it's still, even beyond that, I think is where I feel like the nerf comes, and maybe it's because the ants destroy his armor. But it was kind of weird.
I mean, well, because what is it? Cassie picks him up. She grows big, picks him up, and he goes boom and does that like energy blast, and she just falls down. And I'm like, how did her hands not blow off? Like, like I don't understand the whole like he's like, I don't want to hurt her. Like, I want to get out, but I don't want to hurt her. right. It just like was really like very convenient, of course. But I mean, it is a superhero movie. You don't want them
consistency of his powers, right? Like, kind of gets nerfed in certain places, and kind of is really strong in other places. In terms of like seeing what he could do, we've seen it, but not necessarily in real time. So there's no really justification. What I was trying to say earlier is when he's talking to Cassie and Scott, like his acting and his availability and his demeanor, you can tell that he almost doesn't give any fucks more than Thanos. So from that standpoint, I took more of his vocality and his demeanor as to say, like, I could if I wanted to. And then you kind of see how he can if he wants to. At the same point in time in the final battle, like, you're like, well, why didn't he want to? And that's right. And then he like kind of couldn't in this situation, but he can in other situations. So yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because it seemed like he wanted to and he couldn't then. So Whereas before, in those conversations, I was literally thinking like, how the fuck is he gonna beat him? Like, and I really thought going into this, like, he's not gonna beat him,
right?
Like, because Kang's gonna be the big bad. I'm like, they lose, like, this is gonna be a big loss, and somehow maybe some people will live, Kang will escape, and then that's gonna be the big thing. But like the way it ended, I was like, that's definitely not how I thought it was gonna end.
Right, because then it goes, Hank comes in with the ants, which I thought I didn't like how they explained the technocratic system of the ants and how they came to power and everything. But I do understand the concept. I like the concept because it reminds me of Dragon Ball when Goku would go into the time capsule and just train extra hard for it'd be like years in the time capsule, but in outside of real world it would be like a week or 2 weeks. So I did like that concept. I don't know how it was executed so well. Like, I don't think it was done as well as it could have, but they destroy King's armor and then it becomes more of a hand-to-hand combat situation between him and Scott. And yeah, for sure, he kicks Scott's ass, which I think it was the way it should be, but he gets sucked into the power core that they were trying to shrink down. And yeah, I was like, wait, what? How did they stop Kang? That I think that was a little bit of a letdown for me, because up until this moment, the first 2/3 of the movie, I had little gripes in logic where I'm like, I don't know if that makes sense, or I don't know about that choice, but I was on board with it. Where that one, where I was like, damn it, I really wanted, in a weird way, I wanted them to lose, so that when it goes forward with the Avengers or whoever is left with the heroes, has to be worried because he killed Scott Lang
a lot when he undicks himself. I will say though that I can understand.
Yeah, that's true.
When you see the end credit scenes, it gives you a little bit more context of the foreshadowing of, so this one individual, the exiled one, right, is this person, and we've seen all the terribleness that has portrayed over the course of the hour, 2 hours, and now you have an entire like coliseum filled of individuals with the same mindset. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, but like that to me was like, oh fuck, they don't even know what they're getting themselves into. They thought that was easy kind of a situation,
Yeah. Right. Or yeah. I mean, Scott kind of says like, damn, I can't believe I did that. But it's weird because I thought that was the King we were supposed to be fearing the most, and I know Mortis is out there and we can touch on the end credits in a little bit, but it just seemed like a weird way to get rid of this King where it was so built up for so long and so hyped, and we'd seen him in trailers, and this is the one that we got from the comics. And I don't know, just a weird way to kind of, at the end, he gets beat by Ant-Man of all people. It just is like, when you have a Thor, when you have a Hulk that's still around there, why do you even need them if Ant-Man can do it? I think that's where it all comes down to, for me, scaling. How powerful is he? How powerful is he not? What heroes do you actually need? I mean, yes, to your point with the whole Coliseum, he's not done. We're still going to get different variants of Kang, but I thought that was the ultimate variant we were going to be following.
Me too. Like, especially when he said like, he mentioned like defeating Thor. Like, he said in a way that made me think like he's doing it.
Right.
Like that one. And then I'm like, oh, okay, like then there's no way they can beat him. And and then for him to lose, I'm like, what? Like it was like it was a twist, I see. But like an unfulfilling one. Like it's not the kind of twist I liked. I'm like,
right.
Okay, well I guess it was like, it's like you guys didn't see this coming, but yeah, I didn't really like that. Two other things too, like I don't know how he survived those ants. There was a lot of ants that took him off. You know what I mean? Like he just rolled out and confused him with some shit. Like it was a very villainy movie thing where he's like, I'm back. Like no explanation, just like, like when we were talking about The Last of Us, how she dodged all those people and was just like, where do you think you're going? Like it was just, he's just there now.
Yeah. I didn't run into that cool issue, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And then what other thing was cool though? We got to see some Creed 3 boxing. I bet Creed 3 is going to be lit. He was like beating the shit out of Scott. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. But, I mean, come full circle. I mean, literally boot an ant. He like boots Scott in the face and breaks his helmet on Ant-Man. I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. There was a lot of things that they brought in from the previous movies, even from the Avengers they brought into this. And yeah, I thought they did a good job with that. Yeah, I mean, he's a beast. Jonathan Major is an absolute beast in this. He's so young. He looks like he could destroy people. And again, I think that kind of feeds into he has all this power. How could somebody like a Scott or even a Wasp or all of them together even have been able to stop him? How did you guys feel about, I'm going back in a little bit. How did you guys feel about the whole power core thing where Scott had to dive down and then there was multiple versions of himself and he basically had to make an ant tower or work like ants to go grab or shrink that thing down? You were confused.
That was pretty trippy. I thought it was cool and hilarious. Like, they did a good job of like making you wonder what was going on, and then like still have you laughing because of like that one version of him that works at
Baskin Robbins. Yeah,
like that's funny that there's only like just that one version, and then every other person is Ant-Man for sure. But yeah, it was a little confusing too when as soon as like he meets up with his love, it all goes away, and then they're, I guess, on one track.
Right.
But it was pretty cool though, like that he was like, oh, he is the ants, like like, he's like that. That was all cool.
Yeah,
I thought it was really trippy.
I like the symbolism of it, and that's kind of just why I wanted to highlight it. I'm like, oh, that's kind of clever. They found cool ways to bring ants in, and that was one thing that I felt like was missing from Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, was his connection and his power connected to the ants, and that's a very hard thing to make look cool, I think. And I liked that Hank came in and made it cool because his ants got thrown into the quantum realm. He was able to then use his power to coordinate them to then defeat Kang in a way as well. I thought that was cool that they brought that full circle.
Definitely. About the, and that's the thing, like this.
They went into the time space core, right? And so everything was kind of multiplying with every variant ever. So it's interesting if that's how it works, that it just multiplies every version of energy that energy could be. That's why it's infinite. I don't know. I'm kind of reaching into that, but like, how it runs. Cause you're trying to see like how it runs, because it
can't, like, how does it work?
Yeah,
it's self-sustaining because it's like always running on possibilities.
Oh, that's a cool way to look at it. Some people have said it's the Forever Crystal, which is like a nod to the comic books, where the Forever Crystal is like the super MacGuffin where you can basically wish for anything. Basically, like what eternity was, should have been in this for the Forever Crystal. Yeah, but they changed it to that in Thor: Love and Thunder. So
Scott, go back to your thought.
Right. So that's one people's. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh no, I was just saying, like, I know, like, it's easy to point out all the things that I didn't like or thought was weird or whatever, but like, the movie was really fun, and if I look at it like this is a really cool Ant-Man movie. Like you were saying, he did a lot of cool shit that related to his powers. Him shrinking down and growing, like he's like his body seems like it's able to take it a lot more now. Like he can grow way bigger than he did before.
Yeah,
and to be able to go really small and grow really, like, I thought it was so cool when she threw him when he was tiny, and then he grew like giant and then smashed into the.
Yes,
that was so fucking cool.
Yeah, that was a cool idea.
They had so many cool things going on in this movie. It wasn't until like after we got out of the movie and you start talking with people like, like about the plot holes, then you're like, oh yeah, how come they didn't, what the heck? But overall, like, I enjoyed the movie for sure, though. Like, it was a super fun movie.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for, other than, I'm having a really hard time finding plot holes where they can't be explained by something, or I don't think that they're gonna not explain something, though. So that's the thing. Like, I feel like this was, as a self-contained movie, maybe by itself it wasn't fantastic, but I think the implications and what it sets up for the future are huge, and there's always like ways that they can spin these quote unquote plot holes into answers. So like, I think that's the thing where I'm not really holding plot holes in a sense to this movie, because this is the beginning of a phase. It's not the end of a phase. It's the beginning of something, and I think that's the only thing. I think the only thing that really I didn't care for was that they beat Kang, and that it goes back to normal, and then all of a sudden, but it's kind of not, and it doesn't really give you the answer. And I felt a little uncomfortable with that resolution.
So how did you feel then about the two end credit scenes?
Yeah, very. The first one, I loved it. I thought it was great. Seeing Ramatut, seeing Immortus, I thought that was fantastic. Jury's still out on the third guy. I don't know. Do you guys have any idea who you think it is? Or I can give you what the internet thinks it is. Yeah. So the internet thinks it's either Red Centurion, who is the Kang after Ramatut, who comes back to modern area and decides to emulate himself after Doctor Doom, or Iron Lad. And Iron Lad was another founding member of the Young Avengers, but I don't know. He didn't look young enough. So I don't know. Or it could be a composite of these characters or somebody that they created just for the MCU. So I'm not too sure. But I loved seeing, the head Kangs, so to speak, and all the different variants and them being in there and recreating that image from, I want to say it's like 1972, or was it like Avengers 276 or something like that, where it's the Council of Kangs. I loved that. I thought that was super dope. That was really cool. But the only thing with that even was I felt, and again, not one bad thing to say about Jonathan Major, because I think he was incredible in this movie and everything he did. It just, the Immortus voice for me was a little distracting.
You're like, what you do?
I was like not fully bought into the Immortus voice yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. It's a choice. It's a choice. What do you guys think about that one?
Oh yeah. No, I thought it was great. It was cool seeing all the Kangs. And like what was interesting though was like when they flashed to like everyone in the stands and like some of them are like alien. Like, so some don't even look like him. And I was like, oh, it'd be funny if like I know we talked about this like being a thing in like another episode, but like someone like Andrew Santino being like, yeah, and he's one of the Kangs.
Yeah.
Just someone that's like totally not him at all.
Right.
Just like, and he'll never lead. Just like a variant that will never go anywhere, but they're there.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been hilarious to do.
I mean, it's going to be fun to, once that movie comes out and you have the DVD or on Disney Plus, you get to pause it and actually like look at each one. It's going to be interesting to see what's in there. But which, to that point in Loki, right? We have Loki who's Tom Hiddleston, but then you watch the Loki series and he's got a little kid, he's got an alligator, he's got, a black guy, like all that kind of stuff is like different, you know what I mean? So it's like interesting that his variants still very much look like him. And I wonder if they're going to mess around with that.
Like the danger.
Yeah.
That was unleashed because Jonathan or Kang talked about if I can't get out of here, something is going to happen. And I need to get out of here, et cetera, et cetera. So you fear what is going to happen if he gets out because you've seen from the flashback what he can do, and then obviously in the quantum realm. But then if him not getting out is all of the others, what seemed like they plotted to do to be able to do what? And that's kind of even scary because if Kang is as bad, then you have infinity amount of him around from different universes, could it be even worse? So that was an interesting kind of foreshadowing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Cause and I think that's what Scott kind of is dealing with at the end of the movie. He's like, wait, did I do the right thing in even beating him? Or did I just make a worse plague out on the world? And I guess, time will tell. I just found it interesting too. In that first post-credit scene, they say, oh, the exiled one is killed. And I'm like, how did they know that? And two, is he actually killed? It was a weird way to say it.
They should have said out of the way.
Like, he's not like he's gone, or you know what I mean? Right. Because if he's killed, that means that the Kang that we get in Kang Dynasty and all that is not that Kang, which again is a little bit disappointing for me.
Case,
So that, I don't know.
But I could also see them doing that.
Right. I mean, they could do whatever they want. They could see the reception on what people think about the ending and I guess build a movie out with whatever. Like, okay, that Kang gets to come back, or that one is dead. Now there's Kang Prime that's going to come in or whatever. So yeah, they could do that. Second post-credit scene, we got Victor Timely, which seems like it's directly leading into Loki season 2. What did you guys think about that one?
It was like, oh, Loki. And that was it for me. I was like, oh, okay, look, cool.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, for sure. Like, I saw that and same thing, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like, they're back together. Like, it's gonna be a cool like, time buddy cop kind of situation.
Right.
And I'm just interested to see what this variant is like. Like, I'm assuming this whole season is gonna be about this one Kang variant.
Yeah.
Right. So like, I'm interested to. I don't know too much about that one. Like, I know they give the name, but I didn't really look into like who he was or whatnot. So
yeah, I think it was retcon later, but he was the original character in the comics that then became Kang later on. But it was when he was beaten by the Avengers and decided to build up a civilization or his own following and research team before the Avengers even existed so that he could beat them in the future. So that's like Victor Timely. And then it's also a nod to Timely Comics, which was what Marvel Comics was called before Marvel Comics.
right.
Yeah. So that was, so that was cool. Yeah. It's nice seeing Mobius back and Loki. I'm curious to see how it goes and how that interaction with Loki is with Kang, since he's already seen him before and to some degree killed him. So yeah, man, it's cool. I think the implications are there for a very exciting future. It was, a good movie. I didn't think it was a great movie, but there was a lot I did like about it. And just watching again, like there was so much, I just got to enjoy it so much more. And I think you're right. Like if certain moments you just turn off your brain a little bit and you just enjoy what you're getting on screen, it's a pretty fun movie for that.
Yep. Yeah. This is definitely one of those, leave your brain at the door, just enjoy it for what it is. Cause that's what I did the first time around, and maybe the second time too, but it wasn't until after I started thinking about it, right? But the first time around, I wasn't even thinking about where his friends were or whatnot. Like, because it starts pretty quick, and they're just in it, and I didn't even think about, where's Louise and stuff until after the movie. So yeah, it's a fun ride. Like, I feel like the internet is going pretty hard on it, and I guess it sounded like I was too, but
sure
overall,
did.
it's still really. It's only because. Now I'm with my friends and I'm like, dude, these are all the little things. Like, I know we like it, but these are all the little things that kind of like me a little. But
right.
Overall, I did really like the movie. I think it's one of the better Phase 4 movie. I mean, like, it's a different movie than Wakanda Forever and stuff. But
but yeah, this one is the start of Phase 5.
Comedy and right, that's right.
Yeah. So
the best one yet.
It's the best movie of Phase 5 yet.
Yeah.
I think it tops a lot of things in Phase 4. I'm not going to say what, but this a lot of things worked for me in this movie that didn't work in other things. So Drake, what about you?
I think Phase 5 is going to be super drama. I think a lot of the family that they built up in the show, or I'm sorry, Quantumania, right? Like, oh, we're a family. Like, we hang out. If we argue, like we figure it out and we stick together. And if one of us gets dilapidated, we're gonna come bring you in, and we're strong together. And then when you see the Guardians 3 trailer, you see a similar vibe. And so I think they're really building us up through this comedy family situation, and they're just gonna start taking people away and making us feel really sad. Because that's like they did with Louise, right? So
like they did with Louise in this movie.
So you heard it here first.
Yeah, or Louis.
He's dead.
Yeah.
But to your point,
no,
it's like,
not.
Movie. It's it's obviously not the best, but it's the beginning of something new, and you have to just take it for what it is. Very excited to see what they will be doing moving forward.
Yep.
Oh, also, two of the funniest things in that movie happened in like a couple sentences was when going back to Darren,
touching his face.
Like, you're always a brother to me. and then he goes right to Hank, and Hank's like, "What the fuck?" Like, he touches his face. And he's like, "At least I die like an Avenger." And he's like, "Yeah, you made it, man."
Yeah. That's that
was like just like the button on like Darren's character. Like, they just went full like comedic with his MODOK and For me, it worked.
Damn
like,
it.
I would have loved to see
I'm-
one where it was like, but you know, I feel like we played the Avengers game and I got a version of that.
Yeah, I'm
So
jealous
it's
of
cool.
you. That just did not work for me at all. I was like, this is so
It's hard to-
dumb.
I just rode with the joke. I was like, this is fucking funny.
I was like, his face alone is the joke. Like, oh
That's
god,
why it was so funny.
I'm
he's
jealous
like,
of you.
I'm
I
not a-
wish I had that.
Yeah.
Where he's like, "You're stop being a dick." He's like, "It's too late."
I know.
That part, yeah, that
I'm
part
a
did
dick.
make me chuckle.
It's so pitiful.
Yeah.
Modok
Oh my
is
gosh.
badass. Like when his
Yeah,
mask is
so
on and he's chasing people, like for sure. But like the way that Kang was able to just flick him to the side and make him be nothing, like it almost made it seem as if like could MODOK be more than
Mhm.
he's already fighting himself, and now he has to fight against everybody he's like ever known for this guy who he probably thinks is a real big asshole. So it's like I get how that character kind of played into the thing. Obviously, yes, we would have liked to see
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more aggression, but
Though I think they could have made it work. Though I don't think it would have been like so if I know the whole DC Marvel thing, right? Like if this were like a DC movie or something and they were trying to just make it for like an adult audience, because Marvel is definitely like they know kids are gonna go to this.
oh yeah.
MODOK's either gonna be like Darren or he's gonna be like creepy. Like
Yeah.
you look at a comic book of MODOK, he's like not very good to look at. He
Mhm.
looks like he's angry all the fucking time. Like he'll eat you before he cuts you up. You know what I mean? Like he just looks menacing. So
Yeah.
if they made him like how he probably would look
Yeah.
like, he'd probably be like something of nightmares. So I get that they probably were like, maybe they did a version like this is too creepy for kids. Like we gotta go the other way. It's the
Right.
only way it's gonna work.
That's
I mean
true.
that's the only thing I can think of. But I think MODOK could definitely be done menacing and scary.
Yeah.
They just didn't do that.
Mhm. Yep. What we got was something special.
Darren MVP.
Yeah, oh my gosh. All right.
Favorite
Well,
Avenger.
it's great. Well, yeah, I don't know. Any other final
Yeah,
thoughts
I
on
think
Ant-Man and the
it's
Wasp
definitely big,
Quantumania?
So keep that in mind.
There you go. Well
That's
said.
a good button.
That is a great button. All right. We're moving on to the next part of the show. The Last of Us episode 6 came out on Sunday, yesterday. It was called Kin.
So
Yeah. Do you guys, anybody want to kick it off?
with Elle, E, and Joel? 3 months later, kind of
Yep. 3 months later.
find their space. Not really. They get it. The first scene's essentially a rabbit's being shot. They bring it into a cabin, and in the cabin is a Native American woman, and she's sitting down, just chilling. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Florence.
Florence. Put some respect on her
Yeah.
name because she's my
Yeah, she's
favorite
so
character
funny.
in The Last of
Um,
Us now.
So
My
Florence
favorite
and then her
she was
husband comes
amazing in this
he's, like,
episode.
seeing everything, and it's like, wow,
Yeah.
this is something's going on. And then Joel steps out, and then they have this amazing banter that kind of really pulls you back into the title of the scene, where they're going back and forth. It's like, who is this? It's like, oh, he came here, and he's like, what are you doing? You made him soup. Sorry. And then sorry, I don't know.
No,
Oh,
soup.
soup.
Yeah, she made him soup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome if she
Yeah,
made him soap,
yeah,
though.
yeah,
Oh, you
that's
do an
true,
accent.
That's true.
That's something you would do, Drake, because
for-
you actually can make soap.
It's
Yeah,
like,
no, that's true. You're like, I could see them making
yeah,
soap.
tell them the truth. Like, are you telling me
Yeah.
the truth? Like, yeah, I'm
That'd be
telling you
great.
the truth. It's just like it was very homely and friendly and funny, and something we don't necessarily get to see. And then Ellie comes out, and
That
then they
was real
start
funny.
having more banter, and you can kind of see the dynamic of Joel and Ellie a little bit more of how they've kind of like. Joel's this like tough and hardened dude, and then Ellie's kind of like his softer side, becoming quote unquote his daughter, right? And they're just trying to find their way to Wyoming. And from this standpoint, before we get to Wyoming in general, how did you feel about the beginning scene, and the banter, and kind of the demeanor after they find out, like, oh man, we're here on the map?
Yeah, that was great. It was a nice tension cutter from the end of episode 5 that ends on such a somber, sad note, right? Like these two brothers who were looking out for each other, who, by all accounts were not bad people. They, ended up, one brother had to shoot his other brother to kill him, and then ends up killing himself. Like, it's just so sad and it's somber. And I loved how this one kind of cut that tension a little bit with some funny dialogue. There's still some good people out there and ignorant people out there in a way, but in a endearing way. Like, now we'll mess with whatever else is going on in the outside world. I like that. And just, juxtaposing, or you cut in Ellie, who just has this like foul mouth and everything. And they're like, Jesus, look at this little kid. Was an awesome way to start it off. Plus that line of show me exactly on the map where it is, and you better have the same answer as your wife, is a line that's pretty much pulled right out of the game, except for, I think he says, show me, you better have the same answer as your buddy. So, I mean, that's another like Easter egg from the game.
Right. And it's like in the game, it's like he's a lot more brutal with his interrogations and trying to get information and stuff.
Right.
It's like Joel is a little different. So it is cool that they're able to use lines straight from the game, but even the way things are said are a little different, but work so well. Like, they do such a good job in this game. And what's cool is they're already starting to pull from like the second game.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting, but it's working. Like, and it makes sense because they kind of need to, because of the way it goes in the game. Like, the location they'd be at is not the one they'd want to. It wouldn't really fit in the show. Like when he first meets Tommy in the game, they're at the dam, and you get to see the dam in this. But they do this in the show in the town, but you don't really see the town until the second game. So it's cool though, like the way they're meshing it and everything. I'm really digging it. Like. If you're not really thinking about it, like what you played in the game, then it's like it's still flowing really well. It doesn't feel like it's like forced or anything. So
right,
I'm really digging it.
Yeah,
and even the whole like the rabbit thing and stuff is like cool. Like, she takes a rabbit, and then the beginning of the second game, like she's shooting a rabbit. Like, it's a lot of different things they're pulling, but just showing in different ways. So we're really digging it.
Yeah, it's like a perfect lead into season 2 already. Or like The Lost of Us Part 2, because when she eventually ends up back in Jackson, now it's like we've already been introduced to it in season 1. So it makes a ton of sense. Right. Yeah. So they eventually they're right outside of Jackson. Those cowboys kind of wrangle them down and are going to have the dog sick Ellie. For whatever reason, the dog doesn't smell the cordyceps on her. And Joel basically tells the cowboys, hey, I'm Joel. Maria knows who it is, and brings him into Jackson. It seems like it's the nicest city that we've seen so far.
Jackson in real life is like
living's good out there, right? Like
ski town, like a really swanky situation. So makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Definitely. Yeah, this one was filmed in Alberta, I believe, but it looked like it's the nicest city we've seen so far in the show, and things are just working, right? They got buildings going up. Everybody seems like they have a laundromat, schools, movie nights. Bunch of communists. Yeah. That was great. I loved it. I loved that line, and seeing Tommy realize, wait, what? We're communists?
Like, I'm not a communist.
As somebody from a military, life and background, and then seeing like, wait, it is a commune. We're communists. Wait, and this works. Wait, just him trying to figure it out on his face is so priceless. I love that.
Perfect.
Yeah. But we get to see that emotional kind of a connection, or what do you call it? Like introduction again of Tommy and Joel re-meeting each other, which was super great. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of Pedro Pascal letting the valve loose a little bit in this show, right? I mean, in this episode, he from seeing his brother to also now they go their separate ways. Meaning Ellie goes with Maria to shower and then get a haircut. And then Joel and Tommy go off to the bar and have this conversation. That interaction between them is just so good. And you slowly in this episode are starting to see more of the cracks in Joel's armor. Like he's starting to really, he gets a panic attack right outside the cabin. He, I think gets another one at some point. Can't remember where. That's right. Yeah. It looks like Sarah. Yeah. And that conversation. And then Tommy tells him that he's having a son or a kid. And I don't know if it's a son, but he's having a kid. and you can.
Congrats.
Joel's not really receptive to that information, or he's not very like, encouraging about it.
No, but that was a good scene because like it really shows like before this whole thing happened, the brother was the one that had his he was crazy, like he was going to jail, and like Joe had all his shit together, and now it's reversed, and it's like because of what happened, and it's like almost like I'm sure he's happy for his brother, but he's also like, it's not fucking fair.
Yeah.
Like, why do you get to have a kid and I did everything right and I lost mine?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, he says like, eventually where he wakes up in, I guess they're some other place, and they're Joel and Tommy are talking, and he tells him, he's like, I just, I wake up, I have these nightmares or dreams, and when I wake up, I just feel like I lost something. Like I always feel like I lose. And man, like just the delivery on those lines were so damn good in this.
Yeah, so good.
Yep. Which that is coming out next week as well. I'm looking forward to The Mandalorian.
Oh my gosh.
But we see Maria kind of giving Ellie a little bit more of the backstory for Joel as well. We see her telling her, Sarah, oh, that wasn't my kid. That was Joel's daughter. And you can kind of see Ellie processing like, oh, wait, like, where is Joel's daughter? Oh, wait, he doesn't have his daughter anymore. And then she says, oh, that makes a lot of sense, about him, or however she phrases it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I just loved the way they kind of deepen their relationship in this episode, but also pull out some of the best lines from the game and then also put it in the episode as well. Yeah, because eventually it leads into the conversation where Joel finds Ellie in the room, and she's looking through that girl's notebook, and I think the lines are almost word for word, but she's like, oh, is this all they had to worry about back in the day? Like which movies to watch and which shirts match which skirts and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. To eventually leading to Joel's line of, what is it? You don't know anything what real loss is, or something like that.
Yeah. She's like, I lost everyone I ever known.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's got to the point where he's like, she's like, you're not my dad. He's like, yeah, you're not my daughter, so we're going to separate ways. Like, all of that was, like, right from the game, so that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I found the line. It's, you have no idea what loss is, and damn, does he deliver it so well right there. Yeah, so good. And then Joel decides to make the decision to take Ellie to Colorado, and Tommy stays behind. In the game, it's different, though, right? I'm trying to forget. Yeah. Like, he goes with him, right?
In the game, she runs off, actually. She takes a horse and goes. And then originally Tommy was going to come. His wife's against it. And then she goes, she takes a horse, and then him and Tommy are like, we got to go get her. And then there's this whole thing of like trying to get to her, shoot out and all this stuff. And then that scene actually with her with the journal happens after he goes and gets to her. There's like these abandoned houses and she's there. But it made sense the way they did it. But yeah, but I like the way they did it here because it's like, he realizes like he's like, he doesn't want to admit like I want to go with you, but he also wants her to choose. I like how she cuts him off right away.
Yeah,
like, well, you have an option. You can go with Tom. You're like, okay, here, take. Let's go.
Yeah,
I was like, that's awesome.
That was great.
Head out, and they get to the interstate very quickly, and you can see the city in the background, and they start cruising in, and they're joking on the back of the horse, and. Yeah, I was explaining his football. He's like, I wanted to be a singer.
He's explaining football.
He's like, why don't you sing something for me?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you just laughed at it, so why would I do that right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And that's from the game,
like,
too.
Both those lines.
When you
exactly.
So much happiness in a show like this, I'm like, fuck, what's going to happen? Like, and then.
Right? Yeah. I know. You're like, where's the poop? It just reminds me of How I Met Your Mother. Like, where's the poop, Robin? Meaning like somebody is like hiding poop or like stepdad or something, and you're just like, oh man, don't lift me up just to tear me down.
On the thingamahoo, the sign, and then they go there, and it's just East Colorado University, which is apparently
at East Colorado University. Go Bighorns.
Of Jackson. Which on a map is 100% correct, so double check.
Of Jackson, yeah.
And, so they get there and nothing's there.
Yeah, it is not.
Joel makes the assumption based off of some evidence he found that they've potentially gone to Salt Lake because all of the pins lead there, etc., etc. Then you see 4 dudes just duding, and
well, see, that's the thing. Like in that's one of the things. Like I get the game has to like fill in empty spots with like enemies, but some parts were kind of cool to see in the game, and I wish they did in the show. Like, he runs into in the game at the school. They run into like more like the clickers and like a bloater and stuff. And I guess it is kind of ridiculous for one man to be able to take that down, especially after the last episode we saw the bloater and stuff. But it does build a lot of tension. And I thought like maybe he'd run into something there. There's just like nothing there. And then
except for monkeys in the beginning. And then you're like,
which was in the game. They kept that.
Yeah. Kept the monkeys, got rid of the bloaters though.
yeah. Kept the monkeys. But then going back to like meeting the 4 dudes.
So they're like, oh, we gotta get out of here. And so they're being super
Karen,
sneaky, going out the back door, getting to the horse. All of a sudden, a guy just, I'm gonna bat this person's head off without any conversation. Hits a tree, bat breaks in half. Joel takes him to the ground, chokes him, and then breaks his neck. And then, which you get to do in the game. And then,
which you get to do in the
Ellie
game.
finds out that there is the handle of a bat in Joel's stomach, and Joel, which is the opposite of what you want to do if you have something inside of your body. He pulls it out so that he can bleed out, and then they get on the horse and they get away.
Yep.
In the nick of time before the other 3 dudes were like avenging.
Also, like it's so funny. They're like,
I know, so
it's like, dude, your friend came out of nowhere and tried to kill him. Like, fuck you guys.
And then we
act like,
I guess the dramatic climax / close to the end of the situation where they're trotting along the train tracks, and Joel's like not doing so hot, and then he falls off to the side, and then after all of the tension from the beginning where Ellie and Joel are like, you're not my dad, you're not my daughter, and then they come to the realization that they do care for each other, they do kind of need each other. Ellie is pleading to Joel as he's pretty much unconscious, like, you need to wake up, I don't know, I can't do anything without you, right? I need you. And that in the middle of nowhere during like snow time, right? Like it's a moment of like breathlessness. You're like, what's gonna happen? How did you guys take that final scene?
It was good.
Yeah.
Bloater.
No, say just because I played the game, like I know what's gonna happen. So like I know what it's leading to. Bloaters, dude, 10 of them. Just gonna sit on Joe's face. No,
bloaters everywhere.
Yeah, it's leading to something pretty gnarly with Ellie and like a group of people they're gonna run into if they do it the same way. But what a cliffhanger.
Yeah, and it, I hate to use the term filler, but it kind of felt a little filler-esque in a way. I guess we've seen how much the relationship between Joel and Ellie has grown. We see that, he has made a conscious decision to be there for her, even though he feels like he maybe is not the right man for the job, or he doesn't have the energy for it anymore. He just can't bear another heartbreak. He's decided, I'm going to press on with her. And, you get that, but this, not a lot happens. Most of the drama and the tension in this is more dialogue driven in this episode. So that's great. But I think for the next week, we get a flashback from Ellie, which is, I think, the one character we haven't gotten too much of a backstory for. Like everything that we know about Ellie, she's told us. So now we actually get to see some of her past, which is going to be cool. And I forgot, this is part of the DLC, right? Isn't that what the DLC for the first game is?
Left Behind, I believe.
Right.
So it's the DLC that came out after the first game. And it talks about, I guess, the whole her getting bit situation.
Yeah. And her girlfriend, right? Or is it just like So
her girlfriend.
Yeah, and the actress that plays that is super good. She was in Euphoria. She plays Zendaya's sister, and she just came out in this movie Missing and whatnot. So I'm excited to see her in this next episode. But yeah, I don't know anything about that DLC beyond what I just said. So I'm excited to see how that one plays out and how, just getting to see more of Ellie's backstory, because we've seen a lot of Joel's. So yeah. I'm excited for next week's episode.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. It should be a really good one. Like that DLC was really good. It's a nice look into Ellie's kind of like how she became who she is, and like like you said, like it was like her and her girlfriend, and it looks like it's mostly gonna follow.
Makes sense too, like with
so
this being the sixth
it should be a really
episode
solid
being something
hour
to really draw us back into like more why, and then the eighth episode, the final episode, being like the action and the climax of everything, and the cliffhanger obviously until season 2, and like I thought 8, 9.
Or are there going to be 8 or 9 episodes?
I think it's 9.
Episode 8 is going to be.
Yeah, I believe it's 9 episodes. Yeah. Yeah, episode 8, I mean, if it's HBO, like what they do with Game of Thrones, like Game of Thrones was notorious for making their penultimate episode the craziest one, and then having the final episode be more of like a cliffhanger and building for next, like leaving you with a question that you really want answered for season 2 or for the next season. So I think that's probably the direction they're going to go. I don't know. Scott, if you had to predict, where do you think they're going to leave it for the end of this season? Like how far into part 2 or like video game 2 are we going to go?
I think it's probably going to end on the, because I feel like the way the first game ends is a really strong way to end it.
Okay.
Especially since they introduced the town. Like it still ends in a way, like obviously there's a second game and Ellie and Joel are in it. So they're not gonna die at the end of the season. So I don't think they're gonna, with the amount of episodes that are left, because this next episode Ellie's gonna be alone with her girlfriend. It's a past episode. The one after that, it's probably gonna be mostly Ellie by herself while Joel's like recovering, and that's gonna be a thing. And then they still gotta do the finale of like where they're getting to and like the whole Firefly situation and whatnot, and like that's a pretty strong ending. So I feel like that's a hell of an ending to leave off on. Okay. If they do it like they did in the game, like it's a really strong ending. That's probably gonna do it, and then it goes right into the. Yeah, they have no problem going right into the second season.
If I were to guess,
they got Jackson
right now
already. So
the last
very cool.
If I were to guess.
I don't want to go for it.
Turn into
That's
Hogwarts
good.
Legacy because I stopped playing the game. Yeah, they go get brooms.
They're gonna get brooms. No.
Highwing.
They get Highwing the hippogriff. Yeah, that's great. Well, yeah, another solid episode. I mean, the show's so damn good. I'm just curious. Like, it's weird. My thoughts are now going, all right, for sure we got a season 2 because there was a part 2 video game. Now I'm thinking, all right, what do they do if this show is such a success? They want to move it into a part 3. Now, where do they go? Because now they're out of source material. So that's where my mind is already starting to drift, because I think like we're so spoiled that part 1 is already here. Let's get part 2 going, or Last of Us season 2 going already. Because yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for the Last of Us season 3. I can't live in the moment.
Potentially.
Yeah, dude. I don't know how you do a season 3. Like, yeah, if they do season 2, like season 2 was a pretty like, I don't even know how they're gonna do a third game. Like, I guess they could, but it would be. It's not going to be what you think based on what you know so far.
Oh, interesting. All right. Yeah. I like that. Nice. That's good. That's a good little Easter egg, or a little teaser, if you will. Like that. Well, yeah, right on, guys. Any final thoughts on The Last of Us, episode 6?
Go watch it if you haven't. What are you waiting for? It's so good.
I know. Tell my wife, man.
Yeah.
It's
not too late to not be a dick. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Be a dick if you can too. Sometimes. I guess. Is that what we're teaching people? Cool.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, thank you guys for joining us, and as always, thanks for sticking with us.
The Joy Schtick Show.
If you've enjoyed what you've been listening to, we'd really appreciate a follow, subscribe, and a review. Just how we like chatting with our friends, please share this with yours. Feel free to join the squad and follow us at JoyStickShow, Joy Schtick Show on Twitter and Instagram, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you feel like submitting topics or questions to be discussed on future episodes, you can email us at joystick.show@gmail.com. As always, thank you, peace out, and make it a great rest of your week.